Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are very...
A lot has been said about Bikila, and for me, Bikila stands for the many positive contributions that Ethiopia is often associated with. And as a child, of course, I heard, all the stories of him running bare feet in the Olympics. I didn't know what an impact he had on the rest of Africa and the world until I actually got a chance to travel the world and hear from others about how Ethiopia was identified with Bikila. When I was in my 20s, I backpacked with some American friends in Europe. And at the time, I had an Ethiopian passport, not a fun passport to travel with in Europe. And I remember being at the German-Czech border, and the immigration officer from the Czech Republic, he took my passport, and then he greeted me by saying, "Bikila, Bikila!" I was pleasantly surprised by the warm welcome I got, thanks to Bikila, because that's not how I was welcomed at other borders. But more recently, I was speaking with my father-in-law, who's from Senegal, and he's 83 years old. And I was telling him I'm coming to Toronto for this event, and he was telling me that he was huddled with several of his friends around a radio that was broadcasting the Rome Olympics. And as Bikila ran across the finish line to win the gold medal, they all celebrated and danced on the streets. They felt like they had also won, that it was possible for Africans to win, and to win big on a world stage. So I think it seems so very fitting for the Bikila organization to honor such exceptional leaders who are lifting many others in our community. Congratulations to all of you. I am truly, truly inspired by all of you. I was asked by the board of the Bikila Foundation to speak specifically about community empowerment, particularly as it relates to women and the youth. And I was really glad because the issue of women's advancement and equality, as well as the importance of supporting and creating an enabling environment for the youth, which you're doing an amazing job of, is something that I actually think about daily. I obviously would not be here today. I would never have accomplished anything in my career and personal goals, really, if it was not for the community that has nurtured me all along. And I use the term community, of course, to include my family, my extended family, friends, colleagues, mentors, my neighbors. There's quite a few of them actually here, and I'm so glad you could be here. My brother Danny, his wife, my nephews Brandon and Checo, who are here. Thank you for coming. I was trying to find the best way to describe our unique culture and community. And I was reminded of the video of the song Kananisa by Teddy Afro. I love that video, where the long distance runner Kananisa is leading Haile Gebrselassie, but instead of looking straight forward and giving it all his best shot, he keeps on looking back to check on his friend and mentor, Haile, and feeling very heavy with emotion that for the first time, he has to lead for his country, Ethiopia, instead of Haile. That moment that was captured on camera is such a great metaphor for our community. When you belong to our community, it's not just about you winning. It's making sure that we all support one another, that all of us move forward together. Like all of you here, I'm of course very proud to belong to this special community. But with this bond comes a very deep obligation that each one of us carries to look out for each other, and especially to support those in our community that need a helping hand. And I believe that that is the true spirit of the Bikila organization as well. For the young people in the room today, and oh my God, I mean all of you who spoke earlier, I was truly inspired. I would encourage each one of you to get involved in your community in whatever way you can. Each one of you has a talent or skill that someone else may be struggling with. It could be just tutoring your cousin or neighbor in math or other subjects. While I've had very interesting jobs in my life, including the privilege of having worked for 2 American presidents, President Bush and President Obama, the job that has been the most rewarding in my life, besides of course being a mother, is when I tutored high school students for free in my 20s. The job didn't pay anything. Instead of hanging out with friends after work, here I was at some high school with a group of kids I tutored in various subjects. You can't imagine the kind of influence I had in their life. Those kids were at high risk of dropping out of school. They often came from families that struggled to make ends meet. In some cases, I was the only person who looked like them that they knew that had gone to college or traveled outside the country for work or vacation. It made them think that it was possible to achieve these things. I'm happy to report that many of them went on to graduate not just from high school, but from college. And that's been one of the most satisfying things in my life. And I strongly believe you are never, ever too young to make a contribution in someone's life, including those living in Ethiopia. I want to give you an example of a young man, Samuel Gabru, who has been my mentee and little brother for over 10 years. He's actually here today from Boston, so I can embarrass him and ask him to stand up so you all know who he is. Sam, where are you? Please. He's a special person, and I am confident that one day the Bikila organization will honor him. When he was just 13 years old, he was watching the Oprah show, and he saw Dr. Catherine Hamlin speak about her Fitsula hospital in Addis Ababa. He was so touched by what she was doing, he started a fundraiser with other Ethiopian American youth in the Boston area, and they were able to raise $4,000 to sponsor 11 women for obstetric Fitsula repair surgery. Imagine a bunch of teenage Ethiopian American boys and girls that were able to have that kind of impact on women suffering. Sam later realized that he needed to do something much more sustainable and started what later became known the Ethiopian Global Initiative. I share this example, and there are so many other young people that I've met in the last 20 years that I'm so glad they did not wait for finishing college or even finishing high school at some point. And we've heard examples from some of the awardees this evening as well. And thank you, Sam, also for not waiting to actually having an impact in your community. One issue that is close to my heart is the issue of women's advancement globally, but also particularly in our society. Personally, as a mother of an 8-year-old girl, who's actually a very feisty girl, I might say, I'm happy about that. I am always questioning the status quo to ensure that my daughter Ida has the same opportunity as my son and her brother Jacob. I'm also quite intentional in how I raised my son to be aware and contribute to women's rights issues because they are a human rights issue. At the time I was born in Ethiopia, Ethiopia was ranked as one of the worst places to be born a girl. Basically, the deck was stacked against you right at birth, just for being a girl. Luckily for me, I was glad to have been born in a family that was educated and had the means to provide for us. One of my favorite quotes of all time is by Warren Buffett, who often says he won the ovarian lottery at birth, meaning that just because he was born to a mother in America, he had already won the lottery of life. He would have access to decent education, good health care, and an opportunity to live up to his full potential. We have to make sure children born everywhere, including Ethiopia, would someday have the same opportunity. While there have been a lot of improvements for women in Ethiopia since my birth, according to Child's Not Brides, 40% of girls in Ethiopia are married before the age of 18. Imagine that. I know there are a lot of mothers in this audience, and you cannot imagine that for your children. Fortunately, Ethiopia has committed to eliminate child and forced marriage by 2030, in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. There is a lot that all of us can do to be part of this process. I know sometimes it feels like it's a problem the UN or some international institution should solve, but I think we can all be a part of that process. For the young people in particular in the audience, there's so many organizations I believe you can get involved with. The Ethiopian Women's Association in Ethiopia, and then some international ones like the One Campaign, Girls Not Brides, UN Women, and many others. Start a Toronto chapter, blog about the issues. It's not just about financial support. If you ever visit Ethiopia, I highly suggest you visit schools. Talk to students, intern at a local NGO. There is so much you can contribute in whatever interests you. I recently joined the board of FinDev Canada, which is Canada's development finance institution, and one of the many reasons I actually joined because of the institution's commitment to invest in women entrepreneurs across the African continent, including Ethiopia. As you know, and I think some of the speakers alluded to it earlier, Ethiopia is going through some major changes, both political and economic. I've always felt that no matter how you feel about the government, we should always find a way to help the people of Ethiopia. It's great to see a woman president, President Sahle-Work Zewde, a woman president of the Supreme Court, Maaza Ashanafi, and half of the cabinet are women. Just imagine all the little girls in Ethiopia growing up right now and watching these leaders and thinking, this is completely normal, just completely normal. I am so confident because of that the increase in women in leadership will actually have positive change in Ethiopia. But I think all of us also can be a part of that change. The last 5 years I've been living in Dakar, Senegal, where I set up our office for a company and mainly investing really in power generation. And I left my appointment in government before my term ended to do that. And many people asked me, why would you do that? You had such a cool job. And, but right before I joined this position, I, along with some amazing colleagues and partners, had worked on President Obama's signature initiative called Power Africa, which had a goal of bringing about 30,000 megawatts of power generation and 60 million new home and business connections in sub-Saharan Africa. But I thought, before in my job, we were just lending money to projects, and but there were not enough developers actually building these projects. And I thought, you know what, if I don't do it, like who else is going to do it? There were others obviously doing it. So I took this job to do this, and I'll be honest, it's probably the most challenging job I've ever had. You need really thick skin to do greenfield infrastructure projects in Africa. It takes many years to get to financial close, to actually see, the project come to reality. And but the need that exists is so huge, and that's why I do it. There's 600 million people living in Africa with no access to reliable power. Think about it, 600 million people. We can't create the jobs for the millions of youth in Africa without reliable power. And the unemployed numbers in Africa, it's not just Ethiopia, it's across the board, Nigeria and all. That's really, I think, should keep leaders up at night. How are we going to create enough jobs for the youth? And Ethiopia is the same. I mentioned this to you, particularly the young people, just to remind you that there is no instant gratification when you're really trying to make a difference and make a long-term impact. Sometimes it can seem that every time you take a step forward, that you can take a few steps back. But don't let that deter you. If you believe in something, work hard, don't lose your focus, and ignore the noise around you. Sometimes people may, and sometimes it could be actually the people closest to you that love you, that might tell you, you know what, no, don't do this. I don't think you should do this job. And if you really believe in it, go for it. By the way, since 2014, the Power Africa initiative has now contributed to over 57 million people having electricity in Africa. Lastly, I just want to add that what I have witnessed here the last 2 days has been quite special, and this evening too. And Elias is sitting next to me, and we were talking about it. Like, I've lived in DC, sort of most of my professional life, and obviously when I was younger, in college and stuff, there was no such, sort of organized community for the youth, and I just can't imagine, like, I don't know if you know, the young people in this room, how special really this gathering is, and the support you have with your community and what they're trying to create for you, this really nurturing, enabling environment for you to succeed. And so I would just say to you, take advantage of the brain power and the experience and the love and the support you have in this room, and just use it, work hard, but don't forget to give a helping hand to those that need it. Thank you.